At the Whitmore estate, the engagement party was supposed to be perfect. Crystal chandeliers glittered above the ballroom. Champagne moved from hand to hand. Wealthy guests whispered behind polite smiles as Emily Carter stood in the center of the room, dressed like the future Richard Whitmore had chosen for her. But Emily had just done the one thing her powerful foster father never expected. She said no. No to the arranged marriage. No to being traded like part of a business deal. No to smiling while Richard used her life to protect his empire. For one breathless moment, the room fell silent. Then Richard smiled. It was not the smile of a loving father. It was the smile of a man about to punish someone he believed he owned. He took the microphone and announced that if Emily thought she was too proud for the husband he had chosen, then she would marry someone more suitable. The ballroom doors opened. A black man in a mechanic's shirt stepped inside, holding the hand of a frightened little girl. His name was Marcus Reed. Richard introduced him as a poor single father from a garage on the edge of the city. The guests laughed. Emily's face burned. The little girl hid behind her father. But Marcus did not lower his eyes. He looked straight at Richard, calm and unreadable, as if he knew something no one else in that room did. And when Richard called him powerless, Marcus quietly said, "You should be careful with people you think have nothing to lose." That was the moment Emily realized the man meant to humiliate her might be hiding a secret dangerous enough to destroy them all. And before this story continues, if you enjoy emotional stories about justice, hidden strength, and people finally taking back their lives, consider subscribing to the channel. It helps more stories like this reach the people who need them. Emily did not remember her mother's funeral clearly. She remembered rain tapping against black umbrellas. She remembered cold fingers wrapped around a small gold locket. She remembered a tall man in a dark coat kneeling in front of her and promising she would never be alone again. That man was Richard Whitmore. To the outside world, Richard was a hero. He had taken in Anna Carter's orphaned daughter when Emily was only a child. Newspapers called him generous. Charity boards honored him. Donors praised his heart. At every gala, every fundraiser, every polished public event, Emily was introduced as proof of his kindness. "This is my daughter Emily," Richard would say, placing one hand on her shoulder. And Emily would smile because she had been taught to. Inside the Whitmore mansion, gratitude was not a feeling. It was a rule. At breakfast, Richard corrected the way she held her fork. At school events, he decided which friends were suitable. When she got older, he chose her gowns, her college major, her charities, and eventually the man she was supposed to marry. Every command came wrapped in the same soft threat. "After all I have done for you." If Emily smiled, he approved. If she questioned him, he reminded her that the Whitmore name was the only reason society accepted her. If she cried, he called it selfish. If she mentioned her mother, his face closed like a locked door. "Your mother trusted me," he would say. "Do not insult her memory by doubting me." But Emily doubted him anyway. She doubted him when old photographs of Anna Carter disappeared from her room. She doubted him when estate lawyers stopped speaking the moment she entered. She doubted him when she asked whether her mother had left her anything, and Richard answered, "She left you to me. That should be enough." Only the locket remained. It was small, gold, and plain, with a strange pattern engraved inside the clasp. Richard disliked it. He said it made her look sentimental. Emily kept wearing it because it was the only thing in the mansion that felt truly hers. The engagement had been Richard's latest decision. The man he chose was wealthy, polished, and connected to a family Richard needed for a major business merger. Richard called it practical. He said love was childish and stability was wiser. He never asked whether Emily loved the man. He only told her she would learn to respect him. Emily might have surrendered if she had not heard the truth 10 minutes before the ceremony. She had been walking past Richard's private office when she heard his voice through the half-open door. "She is the cleanest asset on the table," Richard said. "Once the marriage is secured, the merger will move forward." Asset. Not daughter, not family. Asset. Something inside Emily broke. So when the officiant asked her to step forward in the ballroom, she did not move. The music faltered first. Then the whispers began. Richard turned toward her, his smile still in place, though his eyes had gone cold. "Emily," he said gently in the voice he used when cameras were near, "do not embarrass yourself." Her heart pounded so hard she could barely breathe, but she lifted her chin. "I won't marry him." The room froze. Her arranged fiancé stared as if she had slapped him. His parents stiffened. Several guests covered their mouths. A photographer lowered his camera, unsure whether this was scandal or history. Richard's smile did not move. "You are emotional," he said. "We can discuss this privately." "No." Emily's voice shook, but it did not break. "You made a deal. You used me to secure it. I heard you." A low murmur spread through the ballroom. For 1 second, Richard Whitmore looked exposed. Then his expression changed. The warmth vanished. The polished father disappeared. In his place stood the man Emily had known behind locked doors her entire life, controlled, cruel, and furious that someone he owned had spoken without permission. He stepped onto the raised platform, took the microphone from the stunned officiant, and faced the crowd. "My daughter," he said, lingering on the word as if it gave him legal ownership, "has decided she is too proud for the future I offered her." Emily felt every eye turn toward her. Richard continued, "She believes love is more important than gratitude. She believes comfort is a prison. Perhaps she needs to learn what life looks like outside these walls." A few guests laughed nervously. Richard looked toward the entrance. "Bring him in." The doors at the far end of the ballroom opened. Marcus Reed stepped inside with Lily beside him. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and dressed in dark work pants and a gray mechanic's shirt with oil near one sleeve. His boots were clean but worn. His skin was deep brown, his face calm, his eyes steady. One large hand held the hand of a small girl in a yellow dress, who clutched a faded backpack against her chest and tried to hide behind his leg. The whispers became louder. "Who is that? A mechanic? Is Richard serious?" Emily stared at the stranger, stunned and humiliated. Richard's mouth curved. "Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce Marcus Reed, a garage owner from the edge of the city, a widower, a single father, a man with very modest means." Lily flinched at the laughter that followed. Marcus did not. He looked at Richard the way a mountain might look at weather, aware of it, but not afraid. Richard enjoyed the silence before he struck. "Since Emily finds our world so unbearable, I have arranged a more suitable marriage for her. She will marry Mr. Reed." The ballroom erupted. Emily's face burned. "You can't do this!" Richard lowered the microphone and spoke just loudly enough for nearby guests to hear. "I can do anything, Emily. I gave you everything." Lily tightened her grip on Marcus's hand. "Daddy," she whispered, "can we go?" Marcus bent slightly, his voice soft. "Not yet, Lily." Emily heard the child's name and felt something inside her twist. Richard had not only dragged her into this punishment, he had dragged a child into it too. Richard turned back to Marcus. "Well, do you understand the honor being offered to you?" The room waited for Marcus to bow, stammer, or shrink. Instead, he lifted his eyes to Richard. "You should be careful," Marcus said quietly, "with people you think have nothing to lose." The laughter died. For the first time that night, Richard's confidence flickered, only for a heartbeat. Then he smiled again, dismissing the warning as pride from a poor man who did not know his place. But Emily saw it. She saw that Marcus Reed was not trembling. She saw that he had walked into the most powerful room in the city and looked at Richard Whitmore without fear. After the announcement, Richard moved quickly. The guests were guided into the garden with champagne and excuses. The rejected fiancé left with his furious parents. The officiant vanished. But Emily was not allowed to disappear. Richard ordered her into a private corridor lined with portraits of Whitmore ancestors who had never looked at her like family. Marcus and Lily stood several feet away near the exit, watched by two security guards as if a mechanic and a little girl might steal the silver. Emily turned on Richard. "Who is he?" Richard adjusted his cufflinks. "A lesson. You brought a child into this. I brought reality into this." His voice was low. "You wanted freedom. Freedom has a price. I am not marrying a stranger because you were embarrassed." Richard finally looked at her. "You will do exactly what I say." "No." The word came out smaller than it had in the ballroom, but it still existed. Richard stepped closer. "Then you will leave this house tonight with nothing. No money, no car, no name, no protection. The inheritance you imagine you have will remain beyond your reach because you do not even know where to begin looking." Emily went still. Richard smiled when he saw the question in her face. "Yes," he said, "your mother left more than memories, but documents can be complicated, courts can be slow, and girls who make public scenes are rarely trusted with serious matters." Emily's hand went to her locket. "What did she leave me?" "Nothing you are mature enough to handle. You stole it." His eyes hardened. "Careful." The corridor seemed to narrow around her. All her life, Richard had denied there was anything to find. Now, because he was angry, he had admitted there was a secret. If she ran, he would bury it deeper. If she stayed, he would continue owning her. Richard gestured, and a private attorney stepped forward from a side office with a leather folder in his hands. Emily recognized him as one of the men who had always stopped talking whenever she entered a room. "What is this?" she asked. Richard's smile returned. "A civil marriage certificate and preliminary filing documents. Mr. Reed has already signed his portion." Emily turned sharply toward Marcus. Marcus's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. Richard continued, "You made a public scene. I am cleaning it up. Sign, and you leave with your new husband. Refuse, and I freeze every path to your mother's estate before sunrise. You will spend years in court with no money, no access, and no credibility." Emily stared at the pen. Her throat closed. This was not a wedding. It was a trap dressed as paperwork. She looked at Marcus with fresh disgust. "How much did he pay you?" Lily flinched. Marcus's voice stayed even. "He paid me nothing." Richard laughed softly. "Pride is cheap among men with empty pockets." Marcus looked at him. "Not as cheap as fear dressed up as power." For a moment, no one moved. Richard's smile sharpened. "Sign, Emily, or lose the last chance you have to learn what Anna Carter left behind." Emily hated him. She hated Marcus for standing there. She hated the attorney for holding the papers. She hated the guests outside who would never know what had happened in this corridor. Most of all, she hated that Richard knew exactly where to press until she bled. With shaking hands, Emily signed. The attorney took the papers before she could change her mind. Richard exhaled with satisfaction. "There," he said. "Now you may enjoy the life you chose." Emily looked at him. "I did not choose this." "No," Richard said. "You chose disobedience. This is merely the consequence." Marcus opened the front door. Beyond it, the night air was cold. At the bottom of the steps sat an old blue pickup truck, clean but battered, parked between luxury cars that cost more than most homes. Lily climbed into the back seat and hugged her backpack. Marcus held the passenger door open for Emily. "You can come with us tonight," he said quietly. "Tomorrow morning, if you want to leave, I will drive you wherever you ask." "Why would you do that?" "Because no one should have to make a life-changing decision while surrounded by people waiting for her to break." Emily searched his face for mockery and found none. Richard stood behind her, certain she would not choose the truck, the mechanic, the humiliation. Certain the mansion would pull her back, as it always had. Emily looked once more at the chandeliers glowing through the windows. She thought of the ballroom, the whispers, the man who had called her an asset, and the mother whose truth had been hidden from her. Then she stepped down the marble stairs. Richard's voice followed her. You will regret this." Emily did not turn around. She climbed into Marcus Reed's truck, not because she accepted the marriage and not because she trusted him. She climbed in because the cage behind her had finally shown its bars. The drive from the Whitmore estate to the edge of the city felt longer than it was. Emily sat rigidly in the passenger seat, still wearing her engagement gown, her hands folded so tightly in her lap that her knuckles ached. The silk skirt spilled over the cracked vinyl seat like it did not belong there. Outside the window, the manicured streets of the wealthy district gave way to gas stations, closed diners, pawn shops, and apartment blocks with flickering signs. Marcus drove in silence. In the back seat, Lily had fallen asleep with her cheek against her backpack. Every few minutes, Marcus glanced at the rearview mirror, not at Emily, but at his daughter. The look in his eyes changed each time. It softened, guarded, and tender at once. Emily tried not to notice. She wanted to stay angry. Anger was easier than fear. Anger kept her from thinking about Richard's last words, about the inheritance he had finally admitted existed, about the fact that she had signed marriage papers under threat and left the only house she had known with a stranger who may or may not have helped destroy her life. When the truck finally stopped, Emily looked up. A faded sign read, "Reed Auto Repair." The garage sat at the end of a narrow street, its brick walls old but clean, its wide metal door pulled down for the night. Behind it was a small apartment with 2 lit windows. A single porch light buzzed above the entrance. Compared to the Whitmore mansion, it looked impossibly small. Marcus turned off the engine. "We're here." Emily did not move. "This is where you live?" "Yes." "With your daughter?" "Yes." She looked at him, unable to hide her disbelief. "And you thought bringing me here after tonight was reasonable?" "I thought leaving you with Richard was worse." That silenced her for a moment. Marcus got out and opened the back door. Lily stirred as he lifted her into his arms. The little girl mumbled something Emily could not hear and tucked her face against his shoulder. Marcus held her carefully, as if the entire world might bruise her. Emily followed them inside. The apartment was clean, warm, and painfully ordinary. A small kitchen opened into a living room with a worn couch, a low table, and shelves filled with children's books, old paperbacks, and framed drawings. Crayoned suns and crooked houses were taped to one wall. A pair of tiny sneakers sat beside Marcus's work boots near the door. Emily stood in the middle of the room and felt overdressed, misplaced, and exposed. Marcus carried Lily into the only bedroom. He returned a minute later and closed the door halfway. "You can sleep in there," he said. Emily stared at him. "Where will Lily sleep?" "She sleeps better on the couch when she's upset. I'll stay near her." "You expect me to take your child's room?" "I expect you to sleep behind a door that locks." The answer caught her off guard. She looked toward the bedroom, then back at him. "Why are you doing this?" Marcus went to the kitchen sink and washed his hands, scrubbing oil from his fingers. "Because you had a bad night." "That is not an answer." "It is the only one I can give you tonight." Emily laughed once, bitterly. "How convenient." He dried his hands on a towel. "You think Richard paid me." "I think Richard does nothing without a reason. I think you walked into that ballroom exactly when he called for you. I think you let him use you to humiliate me. And I think you signed those papers before I even knew your full name." Marcus's face tightened, but he did not raise his voice. "I let him think he was using me." Emily narrowed her eyes. "What does that mean?" "It means you should get some rest." "No." She stepped closer. "You do not get to speak in riddles after what happened. Who are you?" "A man trying to keep his daughter safe." "That is not all you are." For the first time, something like warning passed through his eyes. Not anger, not guilt. A closed door. "You're right," he said, "but tonight, it is enough." Emily hated him a little for that. She hated the calmness, the restraint, the way he seemed to know more than he said. She hated that he had not mocked her once. because mockery would have made him easier to dismiss. From the couch, Lily's small voice broke the silence. "Daddy?" Marcus turned immediately. "I'm here." Lily sat up, rubbing one eye. Her gaze moved to Emily and then dropped. "Is she mad at us?" The question landed harder than Emily expected. Marcus crossed the room and crouched beside his daughter. "She's mad at a lot of things, baby, not at you." Lily looked unconvinced. "Everyone was staring." "I know." "They laughed." "I know." Lily's lower lip trembled. "Did we do something bad?" Marcus took her hands. "No, listen to me. What people say when they want to feel taller does not tell the truth about who you are." Emily turned away, but not fast enough to avoid feeling ashamed. She had been so consumed by her own humiliation that she had barely thought about Lily's. A child had stood in that ballroom while adults treated her father like dirt. Emily knew what it felt like to be displayed and judged. She had just failed to see that Lily had been displayed too. "I didn't mean—" Emily stopped. Marcus looked over his shoulder. Emily swallowed. "I didn't mean to make her feel hated." Lily blinked at her. Marcus said nothing, leaving the words where Emily had placed them. A few minutes later, Lily lay down again, this time with a blanket Marcus pulled from a basket. He moved through the apartment quietly, setting a glass of water beside the bedroom door, finding an old t-shirt and sweatpants for Emily to sleep in, placing a folded towel on the chair. No servant, no performance, no debt named out loud. Emily stood in the doorway of the bedroom watching him. At Whitmore House, every kindness had been recorded for later use. Richard never gave without keeping count. A dress meant obedience. A home meant silence. A family name meant ownership. Marcus gave her a locked door and walked away. She changed out of the gown with shaking hands. The borrowed clothes smelled faintly of laundry soap. In the small mirror above the dresser, she barely recognized herself without the ballroom lights. She looked younger, frightened, and furious. Before she turned off the lamp, she heard Lily whisper again from the other room. "Will she leave tomorrow?" Marcus answered softly. "Maybe." "Do you want her to?" There was a pause. "I want her to choose." Emily sat on the edge of the bed. No one had ever said that about her before. In the morning, she woke to the smell of toast and coffee. For a few seconds, she forgot where she was. Then she saw the small room, the faded curtains, the chair where her ruined gown lay folded over itself like a dead version of her old life. She stepped into the kitchen. Marcus stood at the stove in a clean white t-shirt making eggs. Lily sat at the table with a school worksheet, her hair half-brushed and sticking up on one side. A pink backpack rested beside her chair, its zipper broken. Marcus looked at Emily. "Coffee?" "I'm leaving." He nodded once, as if he had expected it. "After breakfast?" "Now." Lily's pencil stopped moving. Marcus turned off the stove. "All right, I'll drive you." The simple acceptance irritated Emily more than resistance would have. "You are not going to argue?" "No." "Why?" "Because I meant what I said." She wanted to accuse him again. She wanted to ask what game he was playing. But Lily was staring at her with wide, guarded eyes, and Emily could not bear to be cruel in front of her. Marcus picked up the broken backpack and examined the zipper. "Give me 5 minutes." Emily watched as he sat beside Lily and fixed the zipper with a pair of pliers from a drawer. His hands were large, scarred, and precise. Lily leaned against him while he worked. "Daddy can fix anything," Lily said almost proudly. Marcus smiled faintly. "Not anything." His eyes flicked just once toward Emily. Something in that look unsettled her. Before Emily could decide whether to leave, a black sedan pulled up outside the garage. Then another. Then a third. Marcus's smile disappeared. 3 men in suits stepped out and approached the side entrance. They did not look like customers. One carried a leather folder. Another had an earpiece. The oldest of them saw Marcus through the window and bowed his head slightly. Emily heard him through the glass. "Good morning, Mr. Reed." The room went very still. Marcus closed his eyes for half a second, as if a clock had run out. Emily slowly turned toward him. "Mr. Reed?" she repeated. Lily looked down at her worksheet. Marcus set the repaired backpack on the table. Then, without a word, he walked to the back of the garage and placed his thumb against a hidden panel beside what Emily had assumed was a storage closet. A green light blinked. The door unlocked. Behind it was not a storage room, it was a command center. Emily stood at the threshold, unable to move. The room hidden behind Marcus Reed's old garage was larger than it should have been, stretching into a renovated space beneath the neighboring unit. Glass walls divided workstations. Monitors glowed with security feeds, financial charts, legal documents, corporate ownership maps, and live news alerts. A long table sat in the center, covered with folders, tablets, and marked-up reports. 3 people were already inside, working as if they had been waiting for Marcus to stop pretending. The oldest man from the sedan stepped forward. "We lost 2 hours after the Whitmore event went public. His media team is moving faster than expected." Marcus gave one sharp nod. "Lock the external feeds. No one uses Emily's name without clearance." Emily stared at him. The quiet mechanic from last night was gone. In his place stood a man who gave orders and expected them to be followed. His voice was still calm, but now it carried weight. No hesitation, no apology, no trace of poverty or helplessness. The man with the leather folder glanced at her. "Should she be here?" Marcus looked at Emily. "Yes." The answer only made her angrier. "You do not get to decide that," she said. Everyone in the room went silent. Marcus turned to his staff. "Give us the room." No one argued. The suited men left through a side door. The monitors kept glowing. The garage above them remained quiet, ordinary, and deliberately misleading. Emily stepped inside slowly. Her eyes moved across the screens until she saw a name that made her breath stop. Anna Carter. Her mother's name was printed across the top of a file projected on the largest monitor. Emily forgot her anger for 1 second. Then it came back twice as strong. "What is this?" Marcus stood several feet away, careful not to crowd her. "The reason I walked into that ballroom." "You knew my mother's name?" "Yes." "You knew Richard was hiding something from me?" "I suspected it." "And you still let me think you were some poor man he bought to punish me?" "I needed Richard to believe that." Emily laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Of course! Another man with a plan I was not allowed to understand." Marcus flinched. It was small, but she saw it. "I was trying to protect you," he said. "Richard says that too." That hurt him more visibly than she expected. His jaw tightened, and for the first time since she had met him, he looked like he deserved the accusation. Emily pointed at the monitor. "Tell me everything, not what you think I can handle, everything." Marcus walked to the table and opened a folder. "My company is Reed Horizon Group. Publicly, it is run by a board and a chief executive. Privately, I founded it. We acquire companies that have been stripped, manipulated, or buried under fraudulent debt. Usually, by the time we get involved, someone powerful has already stolen from someone weaker." Emily listened, her face pale. "I stayed anonymous after my wife died," Marcus continued. "There were threats. People who lost money because of my investigations wanted leverage. Lily was small. I decided the safest thing I could be was invisible. So you became a mechanic. I already knew how to fix cars. The garage gave me a life people could understand and overlook." Emily looked around the hidden office. "This is not a life people overlook. No, this is the life they never see." He touched a control panel, and a corporate map appeared. At the center was Whitmore Holdings. Around it were shell companies, charities, adoption foundations, estate managers, private trusts, and law offices. 6 months ago, we began investigating a series of accounts connected to Richard Whitmore. At first, it looked like charity fraud. Then we found patterns tied to guardianships. Emily's throat tightened. Guardianships? Children with deceased parents. Children who inherited money, property or business shares. Richard's foundation helped place them in wealthy homes. In some cases, those homes later gained control over the children's assets. Emily stepped closer to the screen. Marcus pressed another key. A list of names appeared. Most meant nothing to her. Then she saw it again. Anna Carter Trust. Beneath it was her own name. Emily Carter, minor beneficiary. Her knees nearly weakened, but she forced herself to stand. My mother left me a trust. Yes. How much? Marcus hesitated. Do not protect me from a number. Enough to fund a large part of Whitmore's expansion. The room seemed to tilt. Emily thought of the mansion, the parties, the cars, the gowns Richard had used as proof of his generosity. She thought of every time he had told her she owed him everything. He used my money, she whispered. We believe he used portions of your trust through forged authorizations and controlled investment vehicles. We did not have the final key to prove direct access. Emily's hand moved to her locket before she realized it. Marcus noticed, but did not speak. How did Richard choose you? She asked. Marcus exhaled. He wanted someone he could publicly call beneath you. Someone who would make you look unstable if you stayed away from him. He searched for a man with no visible power and enough personal vulnerability to control. A widower, a single father, a black mechanic from a poor district. He thought you were desperate. Yes, the garage looked like it was barely surviving. He believed I needed money. He believed Lily made me easy to threaten. Emily looked sickened. I made sure my name reached him, Marcus said, through a broker he trusted. So you volunteered? Yes. To be humiliated? To get close enough to keep you alive and to make Richard underestimate me. And what about Lily? Emily demanded. Did she volunteer too? Marcus's face changed. No, he said quietly, and that is the part I will regret for the rest of my life. The anger in Emily's chest shifted, not gone, but complicated. Before she could answer, Lily's small voice came from the doorway. Daddy? Marcus turned at once. I thought you were getting ready for school. Lily stood with her repaired backpack hanging from one shoulder. Her eyes moved from the monitors to Emily. Are people still mad at us? Marcus crossed to her, crouching so they were eye level. Some people are confused. That is not the same as mad. Are they going to laugh again? Emily saw Marcus swallow. Not if I can help it. Lily looked at Emily. Are you leaving? Emily should have said yes. She had planned to leave. She had every right to leave. But her eyes drifted back to Anna Carter's name on the screen. I don't know, she said honestly. That was the first honest thing she had said since arriving. Later that morning, Marcus drove Lily to school while Emily remained in the hidden office. She read until the words blurred. Trust statements, adoption records, estate transfers, signatures that looked almost like Anna's but not quite. Reports connecting Whitmore charities to families who had lost money after taking in children with inheritances. Emily learned that her life had not merely been controlled, it had been financed by theft from her own future. When Marcus returned, he found her sitting at the conference table with her mother's file open. You should have told me sooner, she said. Yes. No explanation? I have explanations. None of them change that you deserved the truth before I made you part of my plan. The blunt admission disarmed her. Richard never admitted harm. He renamed it discipline, love, protection, necessity. Marcus did not rename it. He stood inside it. Emily closed the folder. I do not trust you. I know. But I trust Richard less. That is enough for today, she studied him. What happens now? Richard will try to destroy your credibility. He will say you were manipulated. He will say I seduced you for money. He will make himself the grieving father. He already has the costume. Marcus's mouth almost curved, but the moment passed. We need the final access point to your mother's original trust archive, he said. Without it, we have enough to damage him, not enough to end him. Emily touched the locket again. And you think I have it? I think Anna Carter left you more than jewelry. Emily opened the locket. Inside the clasp was the strange engraved pattern she had stared at since childhood. It looked decorative, but under the office lights, Marcus leaned closer and went still. What? Emily asked. It is not a pattern. He brought over a scanner, placed the locket beneath it, and enlarged the image on the screen. The marks became a sequence of numbers, letters, and tiny breaks that had been hidden in the engraving. Emily felt cold. My mother hid a code in it. Marcus nodded slowly. And Richard has probably been looking for it for years. Emily closed her hand around the locket. For the first time, the little piece of gold did not feel like a memory. It felt like a weapon. Richard Whitmore did not chase Emily with raised hands or desperate calls. He used cameras. By noon, every major society blog had the same photograph. Emily climbing into Marcus Reed's old pickup truck in her engagement gown. By evening, the story had grown teeth. Anonymous sources claimed Emily had been unstable for months. A family friend said Richard was heartbroken. A business columnist hinted that Marcus had targeted Emily because he believed she had access to Whitmore money. The worst part was not the lie. The worst part was how easily people wanted to believe it. Emily sat at the kitchen table in the apartment behind the garage, reading headline after headline on Marcus's tablet. Poor mechanic at center of Whitmore heiress scandal. Foster daughter vanishes after humiliating engagement meltdown. Richard Whitmore fears daughter was manipulated. She pushed the tablet away. He is making me sound insane. Marcus stood at the counter making Lily's lunch with steady hands. He is making you sound unreliable. There is a difference. It feels the same. It is not. Unreliable can be disproved. Emily looked at him. Can it? Marcus turned from the counter. Yes. She wanted to believe him. She hated that she wanted to believe him. Before she knew the truth, she might have imagined Marcus's hidden wealth would solve everything. Now she understood it was only another kind of danger. Money gave him resources. It did not make Richard harmless. Lily came out of the bedroom wearing a blue sweater and carrying her repaired backpack. Her hair was brushed crookedly, one side clipped with a purple beret. Emily noticed Marcus had missed a tangle near the back. Without thinking, she stood. Come here. Lily froze. Emily softened her voice. Your hair is caught. Lily looked at Marcus first. When he nodded, she crossed the room. Emily knelt and gently worked the tangle free. Lily stood very still, as if kindness might disappear if she moved too quickly. My mother used to do this for me, Emily said before she could stop herself. Lily glanced over her shoulder. Do you miss her? Every day, Emily thought. Every time Richard used her name as a lock. Yes, she said, but I do not remember enough. That sounds sad. It is. Lily considered this. I do not remember my mom's voice anymore. Marcus went still at the counter. Emily's fingers paused, then she clipped the beret back in place. Maybe remembering love matters too, not only voices. Lily turned around. Do you think so? Emily looked at Marcus, then back at the child. I hope so. For a moment, the apartment felt less like a hiding place and more like a small room where broken people were trying not to hurt one another. Then Marcus's phone rang. His expression changed before he answered. He listened for 10 seconds, then reached for his jacket. What happened? Emily asked. Garage alarm. They reached the garage 12 minutes later. The front office had been destroyed. Tool cabinets lay open. Papers were scattered across the floor. A computer monitor had been smashed. One of the framed drawings Lily had made for Marcus was torn in half beneath a boot print. The apartment door had been forced but not opened. Whoever came had known where to look and what to threaten. Marcus walked through the wreckage without speaking. That frightened Emily more than anger would have. One of his security men arrived and handed him a tablet. They avoided the main cameras, but we got 2 partial plates. Nothing from the hidden room was breached. Marcus nodded. Move the backup drives. Already done. Emily stared at the torn drawing on the floor. It showed 3 stick figures beside a car. One was Marcus. One was Lily. The third had yellow hair and a white dress. Her throat tightened. She drew me? Marcus looked down and pain moved across his face. This morning. Emily bent and picked up the pieces carefully. Anger spread through her, hot and clean. Richard had not just attacked evidence, he had attacked the first place where she had felt anything close to welcome. Marcus turned to his team. Lily goes to the safe house tonight. No, Emily said. Everyone looked at her. She swallowed. I mean, yes, keep her safe, but do not send me away from this. Richard wants me scared and isolated. I know that game. Marcus's eyes held hers. This is not a game. It never was. Before he could answer, his phone rang again. This time the sound seemed to cut through the room. Marcus answered, and Emily saw the blood leave his face. He did not speak for several seconds. Then he said, "Where is she?" Emily's stomach dropped. Marcus was already moving toward the door. "Lily's school, now!" The drive was a blur of red lights, sharp turns, and Marcus's hand tight on the wheel. Emily had never seen him lose control, but fear was there now, barely contained beneath the surface. At the school, teachers crowded near the entrance. A security guard spoke into a radio. Children watched from classroom windows. Marcus ran. Emily followed him down a hallway painted with paper stars and alphabet posters. Outside a back exit, Lily sat on a bench wrapped in a teacher's cardigan, her face wet and blank with shock. Marcus dropped to his knees in front of her. "Lily." She threw herself into his arms. "I thought it was you," she sobbed. "He said you were hurt. He knew my name." Marcus held her so tightly Emily thought he might break. His eyes closed, and the mask shattered. Not the mechanic, not the millionaire, not the man with hidden rooms and lawyers. Only a father who had almost lost his child. Emily stood a few feet away, trembling. A teacher explained that Lily had been missing for less than 5 minutes. A man near the playground fence had told her Marcus had been in an accident. Lily followed him toward the side gate, but another student saw her crying and alerted staff. The man ran before anyone reached him. "She is safe," the teacher said. Marcus did not seem to hear. Lily clung to him. "I'm sorry, Daddy." "No," he said, his voice broken. "You did nothing wrong. Nothing." Emily looked at them and felt the last of her distance collapse. Richard had found Marcus's weakest point. Not his company, not his reputation, his child. And he had touched it. That evening, Lily was taken to a secure house with a woman Marcus trusted like family. Marcus packed her favorite blanket, her books, and the torn drawing Emily had taped back together as best she could. Before Lily left, she hugged Emily. It was sudden and small, but it nearly broke her. "Will you come too?" Lily whispered. Emily knelt. "Soon, I promise." After the car disappeared, Marcus stood in the garage doorway, staring at the empty street. "I am ending this," he said. "Tonight if I can." Emily stood beside him. "How?" "I will release what we have. It may not put Richard in prison, but it will cripple him." "And after that?" "He will still fight." "So that is not enough." Marcus turned toward her. "Emily, he went after Lily. I will not let him get another chance." "Then stop deciding alone." His expression tightened. She took off the locket and placed it in his palm. "My mother hid this from him. Richard wanted it. That means it matters." Marcus looked at the gold piece as if it weighed more than metal. "You do not have to do this." "Yes," Emily said, "I do." He met her eyes. For the first time, there was no secret between them large enough to block the truth of what stood there. Fear, anger, grief, and a fragile trust neither of them knew how to name. Marcus opened the hidden office. His team scanned the locket again, this time through the secure system. The engraved sequence became an access key, but it required a second verification phrase. Emily stared at the prompt. Anna had chosen a question only her daughter might answer. What did I call you when the lights went out? Emily's breath caught. A memory came back in pieces. Rain, thunder, her mother's arms around her, a whispered name in the dark. "Little star," Emily said. Marcus entered it. The screen changed. Files opened one after another. Original trust documents, video testimony from Anna Carter, audit trails, letters to Emily, proof that Richard had petitioned for control after Anna's death, then forged additional authority years later. At the center of the archive was a scheduled transfer Richard had tried to trigger through Whitmore's charity network. The final movement of stolen funds was set to be announced at his upcoming gala. Emily watched her mother's face appear in an old video file. Anna looked tired but determined. "If anything happens to me," Anna said on the recording, "my daughter is not to be placed under Richard Whitmore's financial control. I do not trust him. Emily, if you are hearing this, I am sorry I could not protect you longer, but I tried to leave you a way back to yourself." Emily covered her mouth. Marcus stepped back, giving her space. For years, Richard had used Anna's memory to silence her. Now Anna's own voice had returned to break the silence open. Emily wiped her tears. "When is the gala?" she asked. "Tomorrow night." "Then that is where we end it." Marcus studied her. "You know what he will do in front of those people." "Yes," Emily said. "He will try to make me small." She closed her hand around the locket. "This time, let him try." By the time Emily entered the Whitmore Grand Hall, Richard had already begun to cry for the cameras. The gala was larger than the engagement party, brighter, louder, and crueler in its beauty. White flowers climbed the walls. A children's choir had opened the evening. Behind the stage, a banner read, "A future for every orphan." Beneath it, Richard Whitmore stood before donors, reporters, judges, and investors, speaking in a voice thick with practiced sorrow. "My daughter is lost right now," he said. "But every parent knows that love sometimes means reaching for a child who has been pulled into darkness." The crowd listened with sympathy. Emily stood at the back entrance with Marcus beside her. He wore a black suit, simple and sharp. She wore a dark blue dress and her mother's locket. Lily was not there. She was safe, far away from Richard's reach, and that gave Emily the strength to breathe. On stage, Richard continued. "There are people who prey on vulnerable young women, people who see family wealth and mistake it for opportunity." A photo appeared on the screen behind him. Marcus in his mechanic's uniform. Murmurs spread through the hall. Emily felt Marcus go still. Not ashamed, controlled. "You do not have to do this," he said quietly. Emily looked at Richard, the man who had built a life out of calling cages shelter. "Yes," she said, "I do." She walked forward before fear could bargain with her. The first person who noticed her gasped. Then another. Soon the room turned, and the whispers rolled toward the stage like a storm. Richard stopped speaking. For one moment, father and daughter looked at each other across the glittering hall. Then Richard smiled. "Emily," he said into the microphone, soft and wounded, "thank God. You came home." The words almost worked. They pulled at old instincts, old obedience, old shame. Emily saw the version of herself who would have lowered her eyes and let him lead her away. That girl was gone. "I did not come home," Emily said. Her voice carried through the microphone Marcus's team had quietly opened from the control booth. "I came to tell the truth." The hall fell silent. Richard's smile tightened. "This is not the place." "It is exactly the place. You built your reputation here. You lied here. You raised money here by pretending to protect children like me." A reporter lifted a camera. Richard stepped toward her. "My daughter has been under tremendous emotional strain. The man beside her has manipulated her." Marcus remained at the foot of the stage. He did not move to rescue her. He did not speak over her. He simply stood where she could see him. Emily climbed the steps alone. "My mother's name was Anna Carter," she said. "She died when I was a child. Richard told me she left me nothing but memories. That was a lie." Richard's face hardened. Enough. No. The word rang cleaner than it had the first time she said it. On the screen behind them, the image of Marcus disappeared. In its place appeared the first document from Anna Carter's trust archive. Gasps rippled through the room. Emily continued, "My mother left a trust for me. Richard hid it. He forged authorizations. He moved money through charities and companies he controlled. And I was not the only child." Marcus's legal team began releasing the files in order. Trust records, transfer histories, adoption foundation accounts, names of guardianships tied to Whitmore charities, signatures copied and reused, payments routed through shell companies. The audience shifted from curiosity to horror. But Richard did not fall apart. Not yet. He had built his whole life by surviving the moment after exposure. He lifted a folder from the podium and raised it like proof. "These are fabrications," he said. "And I expected this. I knew this man would try to use my daughter against me." A second screen suddenly lit up from Richard's own media team. Documents appeared, stamped by private physicians and consultants. Emily's name was everywhere. Emotional instability, dependency concerns, unusual grief responses, vulnerability to manipulation. Emily's stomach twisted. Some of the documents were old, some were exaggerated. Some used real moments from her life twisted into evidence against her. Her panic after nightmares, her refusal to attend certain charity events, her grief over a mother she was never allowed to mourn properly. Richard had kept records of her pain and saved them like ammunition. A wave of uncertainty moved through the crowd. One donor whispered, "What if she really is unstable?" Another said, "This could be about the money." A reporter called out, "Emily, have you been under psychiatric care?" For the first time that night, Emily felt the ground tilt. Richard saw it. He stepped closer, lowering his voice, though the microphone caught every word. "Stop this now," he said. "Tell them you were confused. Tell them Marcus Reed manipulated you. I can still protect you." Emily's hands went cold. Richard turned to the audience. "Marcus Reed is not a savior. He is a fraud with a costume. Yesterday he was a mechanic. Tonight he wants to be a hero. Ask yourselves why a grown man would secretly insert himself into a vulnerable young woman's life and pressure her into turning against the only family she has." The room shifted again. Then another image appeared on Richard's screen. The marriage documents Emily had signed under threat. Richard pointed at them. "He married her within hours of meeting her. Does that look like protection, or does it look like a plan?" The question struck hard because it was almost true. Emily looked at Marcus. For the first time, she understood how close Richard was to winning even while lying. He did not need the whole truth. He only needed enough fragments to make people doubt her. Marcus stepped forward, his face controlled but his eyes furious. "My name is Marcus Reed," he said. "I am the founder and controlling owner of Reed Horizon Group. For 6 months, my company has investigated Richard Whitmore for financial abuse, charity fraud, and theft through guardianship control." The room erupted. The same people who had laughed at the oil on his sleeve now stared at him as if wealth had suddenly made him human. Richard looked as though the floor had shifted beneath him. But Emily did not let the moment become Marcus's. She raised her hand. "His identity is not the point. Richard did not become guilty because Marcus is rich. He became exposed because my mother left proof." Richard turned on her, his mask finally cracking. "You ungrateful little fool. I fed you. I clothed you. I made you a Whitmore." Emily stepped closer, heart pounding, voice steady. "You used my money to feed me. You used my mother's trust to clothe me. And you used your name to make me feel owned." He lowered his voice. "Without me, you are nothing." The old sentence struck the old wound. For half a second, Emily could not breathe. The crowd blurred. She heard the whispers. She saw the documents accusing her of being fragile. She felt the old fear telling her to apologize, to lower her head, to survive by becoming small. Then she touched the locket. The final archive prompt opened on Marcus's screen. Emily stepped to the podium and entered the code herself. The hall watched in silence. Anna's video appeared on the screen behind her. Her mother's face, tired and loving, filled the room. "If anything happens to me," Anna said, "my daughter is not to be placed under Richard Whitmore's financial control. I do not trust him." Richard lunged toward the control booth. "Turn that off!" No one moved. Anna's voice continued. "Emily, if you are hearing this, I am sorry I could not protect you longer, but I tried to leave you a way back to yourself." Emily stood beneath her mother's image, tears in her eyes but her spine straight. The final archive opened on the screen. Richard's attempted transfer scheduled through the gala's charity network. The timestamp was current. The routing accounts matched his private companies. Beside them were copies of forged signatures, recorded access logs, and correspondence tying Richard directly to the theft. A federal investigator entered from the side doors with 2 officers and a woman in a gray suit. Behind them came 3 former wards of Whitmore Charities, now adults, their faces pale but determined. The woman in gray addressed Richard. "Richard Whitmore, we have a warrant for your arrest." Cameras flashed like lightning. Richard staggered back. "This is absurd! I know everyone in this room!" One by one, everyone in the room looked away. That was when he broke. He grabbed Emily's wrist. "Tell them you were confused." Marcus moved, but Emily raised her free hand, stopping him. She looked down at Richard's fingers on her skin. Then she pulled herself loose. "You are not my father," she said. "A father does not turn love into debt. A father does not make a child pay forever for being saved." Richard's mouth twisted. "I saved you." "No," Emily said. "My mother saved me. Marcus helped me. Lily reminded me what love without fear looks like. But I saved myself when I stopped believing you owned me." The officers took Richard by the arms. As they led him away, he shouted that she would regret it, that the Whitmore name was all she had, that no one would remember Anna Carter. Emily watched him go. Then she turned back to the crowd. "My mother's name was Anna Carter," she said again, "and I will make sure everyone remembers." 3 months later, the Whitmore mansion stood empty. Emily never moved back in. The stolen assets were frozen. Other victims came forward. Whitmore Holdings collapsed under investigations and lawsuits. Emily recovered her inheritance, but the money no longer felt like a prize. It felt like a responsibility. She used part of it to create the Anna Carter Foundation, dedicated to protecting orphaned children and reviewing guardianship abuse. The first office was not in a marble tower. It was in a renovated building near the neighborhood where Marcus's garage stood. Marcus returned to work at Reed Horizon, but he kept the garage open. Some days he arrived in a suit. Other days he changed oil with his sleeves rolled up while Lily did homework at the front desk. He said the place reminded him that power meant nothing if it made him forget who needed protecting. One quiet evening, Emily sat with him and Lily at the small kitchen table behind the garage. The repaired drawing hung on the wall. Lily had added a 4th figure to it now, holding hands with the others. A lawyer had sent the final papers to dissolve the forced marriage Richard had created with threats, pressure, and stolen power. Marcus placed them in front of Emily. "You are free," he said. "You do not owe me anything, not gratitude, not loyalty, not a future." Lily looked down at her plate, trying to be brave. "Does that mean Emily is leaving?" The question filled the room with a silence softer than fear. Emily looked around the apartment. The mismatched chairs, the old couch, the drawings, the place where no one had demanded her perfection, the place where she had been angry, wounded, frightened, and still allowed to stay. She thought of Richard's mansion and all its locked doors. Then she took the pen, signed the papers, and set it down. "The marriage is over," she said. Lily's face fell. Emily smiled and reached for her hand. "But I am not leaving because someone made me stay. And I am not staying because Marcus is rich." Marcus watched her quietly, hope and caution in his eyes. Emily looked at him, then at Lily. I am staying because this is the first place where love did not come with a chain around it. Lily threw her arms around her. Marcus lowered his head, overcome. Outside, the garage sign flickered in the evening light. It was not a palace. It was not the life Richard had designed for her. It was smaller, warmer, imperfect, and chosen. For the first time, Emily Carter understood that freedom was not always the open road. Sometimes freedom was a door left unlocked. Sometimes it was a little girl asking her to stay for dinner. And sometimes it was choosing love because no one had demanded it. This story reminds us that real love never controls, threatens, or keeps score. The people who truly care about us do not turn help into debt. They give us room to stand, room to speak, and room to choose our own future. If this story touched your heart, please consider subscribing and following the channel for more stories about courage, justice, and the quiet strength it takes to finally become free.